Access reviews. Control C.6. And this is the control that answers a question almost nobody asks, not who should have access, but who still should. Here's the collapse that proves it. Wirecard was a German payments company valued at over 24 billion euros, one of the largest fintech companies in Europe. In June 2020 it disclosed that roughly 1.9 billion euros supposedly sitting in escrow accounts in the Philippines did not exist. Not the money. The accounts themselves had never existed. Wirecard filed for insolvency within days. The CEO was arrested. The COO fled and is believed to be living under Russian protection. And the auditors had missed it across 9 years. Now, Wirecard failed on many control dimensions. But there is one that gets very little attention: access. The employees creating and maintaining those fraudulent records held access to the financial systems that was never subjected to any meaningful periodic review. And that is the real point. Access reviews do not prevent fraud by themselves, I want to be honest about that. What they do is force someone, on a defined schedule, to look at a person's access and at dangerous combinations of rights, and challenge them. Nobody in Wirecard's governance structure was systematically asking, year after year, whether the right people had access to the systems holding accounts that were entirely fabricated. When that mechanism is absent, it is always significant. So what is an access review? Sometimes called user access recertification. It is the process of periodically validating the access people hold against their current business need. 3 questions. Does this person still need this access? Is the level of access still appropriate? And has their role changed since it was granted? It matters because access only ever accumulates. People move roles and keep the rights from the old one on top of the new. Combinations build up that enable fraud, the ability to both create a payment and approve it. Contractor and temporary access quietly becomes permanent because nothing ever removes it. And absent a review, nobody is ever required to justify why any of it still exists. At Wirecard the gaps were fundamental. No substantive access review program at all. Segregation of duties never enforced or tested, so employees held combinations letting them both create and confirm financial data with no independent oversight. Access driven by senior authority, with no independent challenge of what senior people approved for themselves and their subordinates, which is a critical gap in any review design. And no automated analysis, meaning cross-system conflicts were effectively invisible. So what does good look like? Reviews at defined intervals, at least annually for everyone, quarterly for anyone touching sensitive or financial systems, and quarterly minimum for privileged users. Certification by the person's direct manager, who actually knows whether the access fits the role, with IT facilitating rather than certifying. Automated segregation of duties analysis mapping each user's combinations against policy, escalating conflicts, and requiring documented compensating controls where a conflict is accepted. Every decision recorded, each item either certified or revoked, with a trail of who decided what and when. Automated reminders and escalation for managers who do not complete on time. And critically, revocations actually executed and then verified. How does an auditor test it? You request evidence of reviews conducted in the period and confirm every in-scope system was covered at the required frequency, including contractors and service accounts. You test completeness, were all active users actually included, and were exclusions documented? You take a sample of access flagged for revocation and trace it through to confirmed removal, because the gap between decision and execution is one of the most common findings there is. You request the segregation of duties conflict matrix and test users against it. And you look hard for rubber stamping, a review completed in minutes, or one where every single item was certified and nothing revoked, tells you the review is not being done with any rigor. 5 lessons. 1. Review at least annually, and quarterly for control-sensitive functions like financial processing, audit log management and user administration. 2. Hold your certifiers accountable, managers signing off or making an attestation, and that needs training, metrics and escalation behind it. 3. Automate segregation of duties detection, because manual cross-system analysis is simply impractical at scale. Treat a zero revocation review as a finding in itself, it is not evidence of good hygiene, it is evidence nobody looked. And 5. Close the loop, verifying that the revocations you decided on actually happened, because a review without enforcement generates false assurance, which is worse than none. Access reviews is Control C.6 in the ITGC framework. I'm walking through every one with the breach that proves why it matters every week at marcoweb.org. Subscribe to get them in your inbox, and try the free ITGC audit tool.